I still remember the sound of his voice that morning, sharp, impatient, like he wasn't talking to his mother anymore, but to some stranger who owed him something. "From now on," he said, arms crossed, eyes cold, "I want your paycheck sent to my account." For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. My son, my baby boy, the one I raised alone after his father left us, was now standing in my kitchen, talking to me like I was his employee. I laughed nervously. "What do you mean, Ethan?" "You're joking, right?" He didn't smile. He just looked down at his phone, scrolling, not even meeting my eyes. "I'm not joking, Mom. You live in my house now. You don't pay rent. The least you can do is contribute." Those words hit me like a slap. His house. Yes, legally, the house was under his name. I had sold my old place 2 years ago to help him buy this one after he lost his job. We agreed it would be ours, a fresh start for both of us. But hearing him say it like that, it felt like all the love and sacrifices I'd made were suddenly erased. I wanted to argue, to remind him that I had worked double shifts as a nurse, skipped meals, and went without vacations so he could go to college. But my throat locked. I just whispered, "I never asked you for anything, Ethan." He finally looked at me, but there was no warmth in his eyes anymore. "And I didn't ask to carry you forever either." My knees went weak. For a second, I thought I'd collapse right there. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, the paycheck still folded in my hand. It wasn't much. Hospital work doesn't pay miracles, but it was mine. It was the one thing that gave me independence, dignity. How could he take even that? I stared at the family photo on my dresser. Ethan was 10 there, all freckles and missing teeth, hugging me tight after his first soccer trophy. I remember whispering to him, "I'll always take care of you no matter what." Now, those words haunted me. The next morning, he came into my room uninvited. "Did you transfer it yet?" I blinked. "What?" "The paycheck. I checked my account. Nothing came in." My voice cracked. "Ethan, I'm behind on my bills. I need to pay." He cut me off. "I'm not asking, Mom. I'm telling you, you've been living off me long enough." Something in me broke. I wanted to scream that I was the one who'd kept us afloat when his father abandoned us. That every dollar he spent came from a woman who never let him starve or see me cry when I couldn't afford groceries. But all I said was, "Okay," because I couldn't bear losing him. That night, I transferred the money. Every penny. Then I sat in the dark kitchen, staring at my reflection in the oven door, whispering to myself, "He's just stressed. He'll realize how cruel that sounded. He's still my boy." But deep down, a quiet voice inside me said something changed. He's not the same anymore. A week passed. Ethan barely spoke to me unless it was about money. He started dating someone new, a woman named Claire, loud and flashy, who smirked whenever I walked into the room. Once I overheard her say, "Babe, your mom's kind of needy, don't you think?" I froze. Ethan didn't defend me. He just shrugged. "Yeah, she doesn't get boundaries." I remember walking back to my room, closing the door, and pressing my hand against my mouth so they wouldn't hear me cry. What happened to the boy who used to call me his hero? One Sunday morning, I decided to make breakfast for us, pancakes, just like when he was little. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could talk again like mother and son. But when I walked into the living room, I saw something on the table that made my stomach drop. A printed bank statement, my account, my entire financial history, and beside it, a note in Ethan's handwriting. "We need to talk about where your money's been going." I froze. He'd gone through my personal documents, my private accounts. I felt my hands shake as I realized this wasn't about helping me or sharing bills. He wanted control. I didn't know it yet, but that moment would be the beginning of the darkest chapter of my life, one that would test the limits of a mother's love and force me to see the truth about my own son. I sat at the kitchen table, my heart thudding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Ethan stood across from me, holding those papers like they were evidence in a trial. He didn't even sit down. He just looked at me like I was some stranger who had disappointed him. "Mom," he said flatly, "we need to talk." I swallowed hard. "About what?" He tossed the papers onto the table. "This, your account. Do you want to tell me why thousands of dollars are missing?" My mouth went dry. "Missing? Ethan, I pay my bills, my car insurance." He cut me off with a bitter laugh. "Don't lie to me. I saw the transfers. You've been sending money to someone named Daniel. Who is he, Mom?" For a moment, I couldn't even speak. Then it hit me. Daniel was my brother, Ethan's uncle. I whispered, "He's your uncle, you know that." Ethan shook his head. "Uncle Daniel, the one who always borrows and never pays back. You're still giving him money after everything he's done." His voice grew louder, angrier. "You're unbelievable. You can barely afford your own meds, and you're sending him cash behind my back." I felt my eyes sting. "Behind your back? Ethan, I'm your mother. I don't need permission to help my own brother." He slammed his hand on the table so hard that my coffee cup jumped. Yes, you do, because your decisions affect me. You live under my roof, my rules. Those words sliced through me like glass. My roof, my rules. It was like he'd erased our entire past, every sacrifice, every night I worked double shifts just so he could have a better life. Ethan, I whispered, trembling, when did you start talking to me like this? He didn't answer. He just turned away, pacing. Claire's right, he muttered under his breath. You don't know how to manage anything. You just throw money away and expect people to clean up your mess. That was the first time I realized she had poisoned him against me. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what went wrong. Was I really that blind? Had I loved him so much that I let him grow entitled, spoiled, heartless? Every memory, the scraped knees I kissed, the nights I sat by his bed when he had nightmares, replayed in my head like old film. And now, my son, the boy who once promised he'd take care of me when I grew old, was treating me like an inconvenience. In the morning, I tried to talk to him again. I found him in the kitchen, scrolling his phone. Ethan, I said softly, I know you're upset, but I just want to understand. He didn't even look up. I said what I said. You're not sending anyone money again. If you can't handle finances, I'll take over. I blinked. Take over. He stood up tall, confident, like he'd rehearsed this. From now on, I'm managing your paycheck and your bills. You'll get a small allowance for groceries, but that's it. I froze. Allowance. I was 56 years old and my own son was giving me an allowance. Ethan, that's not right. You can't just, he interrupted, voice rising. I can, and if you don't like it, maybe it's time you find somewhere else to live. I stared at him, my breath catching. He was serious, dead serious. Are you kicking me out? He exhaled through his nose, frustrated. I'm giving you options, Mom. You can stay here under my management, or you can go back to living on your own if you think you can handle it. It was like a punch to the gut. I could barely afford a studio apartment, not with the hospital cutting hours and inflation crushing everything. I nodded slowly, trying not to cry. You're supposed to be my son, not my boss. He looked away. Then start acting like a responsible adult. That night, I called Daniel. I told him I couldn't help him anymore, not because I didn't want to, but because I no longer could. He sighed on the phone. Betty, what's going on over there? I tried to laugh it off, but my voice cracked. Just family things. But before hanging up, he said something that stuck with me. Don't let him control you, sis. Money changes people. Sometimes it shows you who they really are. I didn't want to believe him. I wanted to think Ethan was just stressed, that this was temporary. But deep down, I knew he was right. 2 days later, I came home from work and found my things packed in boxes in the hallway. I stood frozen, staring at them. My clothes, my books, even the framed photo of Ethan and me from his graduation. Ethan, I called out, voice trembling. He appeared at the top of the stairs, hands in his pockets. Yeah, I packed your stuff. Claire's moving in next week. It's better if you find a place of your own. My mouth went dry. You're kicking me out. He shrugged. You'll be fine. You can rent something small. You've got your savings. But you took control of my paychecks, I whispered. How am I supposed to? He sighed loudly, like I was an annoyance. I'll transfer you something to start with, but I think it's best for both of us if you move on. I felt my knees weaken. Move on, Ethan, I'm your mother. He didn't answer. He just walked back into his room and closed the door. That sound, the click of the lock, felt like my heart breaking in half. The taxi dropped me off outside a tiny motel on the edge of town. It was raining, not a soft drizzle, but that heavy, cold rain that feels personal. Like the sky itself is angry with you. I stood there for a moment, clutching my 2 suitcases, watching the water drip off the streetlight. I couldn't believe that after everything, I was homeless. My son, my own flesh and blood, had put me out like unwanted trash. The motel clerk didn't even look up when I checked in. 1 night or a week? He asked, tapping on his keyboard. 1 week, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. It felt humiliating to even say it. The room was small, a single bed, flickering light, and a smell of old carpet cleaner. But it was quiet, and for the first time in months, I could cry freely. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking, and opened my laptop. Maybe I could at least look at my savings, the one thing I thought I still had control of. But when I logged into my bank account, I froze. My balance wasn't just low, it was empty. 0. I refreshed the page, thinking it was an error. But no, the screen didn't change. The money, everything I had worked 30 years for, was gone. Tears blurred my vision as I clicked transaction history. Then my heart stopped. The withdrawals weren't random. They were transfers, large ones sent to Ethan's name. I stared at the screen, whispering, no, this can't be right. My hands trembled so hard I almost dropped the laptop. I checked again. Same thing. Over the past month, he'd been moving small amounts out of my savings until nothing was left. All the years of extra shifts, skipped vacations, sleepless nights stolen by the person I loved most. I called him. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the phone. He didn't pick up, so I texted him. "Ethan, where's my money? I need to talk to you, please." Minutes passed. Then a notification popped up, a message from him. "You're overreacting. I just consolidated your funds. It's better this way." Better this way. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but instead I sat in silence, my chest burning with betrayal. I typed back, "You had no right. That was my life savings, my security. Why would you do this to me?" This time, his reply came fast. "Because you were making stupid decisions. You give it all away to your brother or waste it on nonsense. I'm protecting you from yourself." Protecting me. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The son I raised with love, who used to draw me birthday cards saying, "You're my hero," was now treating me like a child. I called again, straight to voicemail. That night, I barely slept. I stared at the ceiling, tears running down my face, whispering to myself, he doesn't mean it. He's just confused. Maybe she's influencing him. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just Claire's fault. Something inside Ethan had changed. Money, power, pride, it had all gotten to his head. By morning, I felt numb. I couldn't cry anymore. I opened my laptop again and started searching for legal help, something, anything. But when I called a lawyer and explained the situation, he sighed. "Ma'am, if the account was joint or if he had power of attorney, it's difficult to prove theft. Do you have any documentation?" My stomach dropped. "No, I trusted him. I never thought I'd need that." The lawyer paused, voice softening. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Without proof, it's your word against his." I hung up and just sat there. The walls felt smaller, the air thicker. That's when I started thinking of everything differently. How easily he'd convinced me to let him help manage my finances. How he'd started changing my passwords under the excuse of keeping things organized. I'd walked right into it, blindly, lovingly. Around noon, my phone buzzed again, a message from Ethan. "Mom, stop being dramatic. You'll get an allowance until you get back on track. I'll send $300 for the month. Don't waste it." $300. That was all my son thought I was worth. I stared at the message for a long time before I replied. "Ethan, do you even hear yourself? You've taken my money, my home, my dignity. For what? To feel in control?" No reply. Then, a few minutes later, another message appeared. "You never knew when to stop helping people. This is for your own good." That was the moment something inside me shifted. The pain turned to anger. The love that once blinded me turned into a quiet resolve. I whispered to myself, if he wants to control me, he'll have to see what happens when I stop being the mother who always forgives. I decided to visit my old workplace, the hospital where I'd retired early due to stress. Maybe someone there could help me get back on my feet. When I walked into the familiar white halls, a few nurses stopped and hugged me. "Betty, we've missed you." But behind their smiles, I could feel the pity. The quiet curiosity. I forced a smile. "Just visiting." The truth was, I was too embarrassed to tell them what really happened, that my son had drained my life savings and thrown me out. As I left, I saw something on the bulletin board, a posting for part-time night shifts. I stared at it for a long time. Maybe this was how I'd start over, not to prove anything to Ethan, but to myself. That evening, I went to a nearby diner to clear my head. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, noticed my tears and asked softly, "Rough day?" I smiled weakly. "Just life reminding me I still have lessons to learn." She chuckled sadly. "Life never stops teaching, even when we're tired of learning." Her words stuck with me. That night, back in my motel room, I looked out at the rain and whispered, "Maybe I can survive this, maybe I can rebuild." But then my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Claire. "Thought you should know, Ethan and I are going to sell the house. He said you don't have any claim to it anyway." My heart dropped. That house, the one I'd helped pay for, was my last tie to the life I'd built. And now, even that was being taken from me. If someone you loved betrayed you like this, your own child, would you fight to get justice or walk away to find peace? Comment below. I want to know what your heart would tell you to do. When I woke up that morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: anger. Not quiet, hidden anger. The kind that burns through your chest and makes your hands tremble. I was done being the quiet, broken mother. I wanted answers. So I took the first bus back to Ethan's neighborhood. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, like the world itself was holding its breath. When the bus stopped near the house, my chest tightened. I hadn't been back since the night he threw me out. Seeing it again, our home felt like walking into a graveyard of memories. The flowers I'd planted in the front yard were dead now. The porch light was broken, and through the window I saw boxes piled everywhere. It didn't even look like a home anymore, just a house being stripped of its soul. I knocked on the door. No answer. I hesitated, then turned the doorknob. It was unlocked. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of alcohol and perfume. Music played faintly from upstairs. I stepped inside quietly, calling out, "Ethan, it's me." No response. The living room looked completely different, furniture moved, walls half-painted, bottles and takeout boxes scattered across the coffee table. It didn't feel like the home I'd built with him. It felt like someone else's life had taken over ours. Then I noticed something on the counter, a stack of unopened letters, all addressed to me. Hospital pension updates, insurance statements. A letter from my bank. He hadn't even bothered forwarding them. He just kept them there. My hands trembled as I picked one up, an envelope from the hospital pension office. When I tore it open, my stomach dropped. "Dear Mrs. Peterson, we received your request to transfer your pension account to a new beneficiary." I froze. New beneficiary. My eyes scanned the page. The name listed wasn't mine anymore. It was Ethan S. I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. He changed my pension, the last bit of financial security I had, into his own name. I stumbled back, gripping the counter to steady myself. "Oh my God, what have you done, Ethan?" Then I heard a door slam upstairs. I turned toward the staircase, my pulse racing. Footsteps. Laughter, a woman's voice. It was Claire. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking under my weight. When I reached the top, I saw Ethan's bedroom door half open. Inside, I saw him sitting on the bed, shirtless, counting money. Claire was beside him, painting her nails, smirking. My voice came out weak, trembling. "Ethan." He jumped, startled. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to talk," I said, "but now I see there's nothing left to say." Claire rolled her eyes. "Seriously, you just barge in like this." I ignored her. "Ethan, why did you do it? Why did you transfer my pension? Why did you take everything from me?" He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "You weren't using it right. I told you I'm managing things better. You wouldn't listen." "Managing," I said, my voice shaking. "You stole from me, you took my savings, my home, and now my pension." He sighed, frustrated. "Mom, stop being dramatic. You always play the victim." Those words hit me harder than any slap could. "Victim," I whispered. "I worked my whole life for you. I gave you everything I had, and you call me a victim." Claire smirked, leaning back on the bed. "He's just trying to help, lady. You should be grateful." That was it. Something inside me snapped. "Grateful?" I turned to her, tears in my eyes. "Do you even know what you're saying? I carried that boy for 9 months, raised him alone, worked until my hands bled, and now you think I should be grateful he's taking everything I own." Ethan stepped forward, face red. "Enough, Mom. You need to leave. Now." I stared at him, really stared. And for the first time, I didn't see my son. I saw a stranger wearing his face. "Is this who you are now?" I asked softly. "Someone who steals from his own mother and hides behind a woman who laughs at her pain." He didn't answer. He just looked away. My voice broke. "Ethan, I loved you more than anything. You were all I had." Claire crossed her arms. "Then maybe that's the problem." I turned slowly toward her. "You'll never understand what it means to love someone unconditionally. But one day, when he turns on you like he turned on me, you will." Her smile faltered for a moment. Then Ethan said something that shattered me completely. "Get out, Mom. I don't want you in my life anymore." The room went quiet. Even the music stopped. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, waiting for something, a flicker of regret, a hint of love, but his face stayed cold, so I nodded slowly. "Okay, Ethan, you've made your choice." I turned toward the door. But before leaving, I looked back one last time and whispered, "Just remember everything you have came from me, and one day when it's gone, you'll realize what you've really lost." Then I walked out. I don't remember how I got back to the motel. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely unlock the door. When I sat on the bed, I broke down completely. The sobs came in waves, uncontrollable. It wasn't just the money or the house. It was the realization that my son, the boy I once held in my arms, didn't love me anymore. Or maybe he never truly did. I stayed like that for hours until the tears ran dry. Then I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You have to fight back, Betty. Not for revenge, but for yourself." That night, I made a decision that would change everything. If Ethan wanted to take everything from me, he was about to learn what it meant to lose everything, too. The morning light hit differently that day, not soft or comforting, but sharp, like the world itself was waking me up. I sat at the edge of the motel bed, clutching my phone. My hands still shook from everything that had happened. I hadn't slept. I couldn't. All night, I kept hearing Ethan's words on repeat. "Get out, Mom. I don't want you in my life anymore." Each time I heard it, it tore through me again, like glass against skin. But beneath the heartbreak, something new was growing, resolve. I wasn't going to let him destroy me. Not anymore. I took a deep breath and scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in years, Michael Turner. Michael had worked as an accountant at the hospital where I spent 20 years of my life. He was kind, quiet, and meticulous, the kind of man who could find a penny out of place in a mountain of numbers. And more importantly, he'd always been a friend. I pressed call. He answered after 2 rings. Betty. My goodness, it's been ages. How are you? I tried to steady my voice. Michael, I need your help. It's about my finances. Immediately, his tone changed. What happened? It's my son, I said, the words barely leaving my throat. He took over my accounts. I think he might have done something illegal with my pension. There was a pause. Then Michael said gently, do you have any of your paperwork, account statements, anything? I have copies in my email, I said, and some documents I found at the house. All right, he replied firmly. Forward them to me, I'll see what I can find. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small spark of hope. 2 days passed before he called back. Those 2 days were the longest of my life. I barely ate, I barely spoke. I just sat in that dim motel room, staring at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong as a mother. When my phone finally rang, I answered it instantly. Michael! His voice was quiet, too quiet. Betty, I don't know how to tell you this. My stomach turned. Tell me everything, he sighed. You were right to call me. Your son changed your pension beneficiary, yes, but that's not all. I felt my breath catch. What do you mean? He also took out 2 loans under your name, he said. Big ones. I cross-checked the documents, forged signatures, fake authorization letters. It's clear he had access to your ID and bank info. I froze. Loans, oh God, Michael continued carefully. One was for $25,000. The other for $40,000, both transferred to his personal account within a week. I felt the blood drain from my face. $65,000 gone. My life savings, my retirement, every bit of security I had left. And there's more, Michael added quietly. The money's been moving fast, gambling sites, cash apps, luxury purchases. He's burning through it, Betty. If you don't act soon, there'll be nothing left. Tears blurred my vision. He gambled it. I'm afraid so, Michael said. You need to report it. He could face prison time for fraud. I couldn't speak. Prison, for my son. After a long silence, I whispered, Thank you, Michael. I need time to think. When I hung up, I sat there motionless for what felt like hours. I thought of Ethan as a little boy, his tiny hands clutching my fingers when he took his first steps. The way he'd run into my arms after school, shouting, Mom, I missed you. Where had that little boy gone? Now he was a man who saw me not as a mother, but as a wallet. My tears turned to quiet sobs, then silence. But beneath that silence, something shifted. I wasn't just a broken mother anymore. I was a woman who had been betrayed, and I wasn't going to let him destroy what I'd built. I reached for my phone again. This time I called someone else, Detective Laura Bishop, an old friend from church. When she picked up, her voice was warm. Betty, how are you? I hesitated. Laura, I need to talk. It's about something serious, and I don't know who else to trust. She met me that afternoon at a small cafe near the motel. When she walked in, I almost cried with relief. Laura had that kind of presence, calm, steady, the kind that made you feel safe just by being near her. Over coffee, I told her everything, from the moment Ethan asked for my paycheck to the last time I saw him with Claire. When I finished, Laura sat back, exhaling slowly. Betty. This is fraud, plain and simple. You could file charges right now. I can't, I whispered. He's my son. She looked at me sadly. And you're his victim. I felt my eyes sting again. Laura reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Listen, you don't have to destroy him, but you do have to protect yourself. Let me pull a background check and trace where the money went. You deserve to know the full truth. I nodded, my throat tight. All right, do it. That night back at the motel, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. You're his victim. The word victim had never sat well with me. I'd been strong all my life. I'd worked 2 jobs, survived my husband's death, raised a son alone. But now, sitting there in that tiny room, I realized something painful sometimes. Being strong doesn't mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go. I didn't know if I could ever forgive Ethan. But I knew I needed to face what he'd done, not for revenge, but for closure. I looked at the old photo of him on my phone, his first birthday, cake all over his face, his eyes full of innocence. I whispered to the picture, You were supposed to be my miracle, Ethan, not my mistake. 2 days later, Laura called back. Her tone was serious. Betty, we found something, and I need you to sit down before I tell you. My heart began to race. What is it? The money didn't just go to gambling, she said. There's a pattern, multiple transfers to an offshore account in Claire's name. It looks like she's been draining him too. My breath caught. She's stealing from him. More like using him, Laura said grimly. She's already bought herself a ticket out of the country. I pressed a hand to my mouth, shocked. After everything he'd done to me, after all the betrayal, my son was about to be betrayed himself. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt heartbreak all over again. Because I knew what was coming next would destroy him. If someone you love was being used by the very person who helped them hurt you, would you warn them or let them face the consequences? It was just past midnight when my phone rang. At first, I ignored it. I'd barely been sleeping these days anyway, and I assumed it was another scam call. But then I saw the name flash on the screen. Ethan. My heart stopped. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I just stared at the name, my finger trembling above the screen. After everything he'd done, the shouting, the humiliation, throwing me out of my own home, part of me didn't want to answer. But the mother in me, she still lived. She still hoped. I pressed accept. Ethan, I whispered. All I heard at first was ragged breathing, then a broken voice. Mom, please, I messed up. I need you. I sat up straight. What's wrong? Where are you? He sniffled, his voice shaking. She's gone. Claire's gone. She took everything, Mom. The money, my cards, my laptop, everything. My stomach twisted. Slow down, Ethan. Where are you right now? I'm at the house, he said, sobbing. The police were here earlier. They said there's an investigation into my accounts. I didn't know what she was doing, Mom. I swear I didn't know. I closed my eyes, trying to hold back tears. Laura had been right. It had all fallen apart. Ethan, I said gently, I told you she wasn't who she seemed. I know, he cried. You were right about everything. Please, Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of it, the things I said, what I did to you. Please, just come home. My throat tightened. Part of me wanted to scream no, to remind him how he'd kicked me out like a stranger. But hearing my son cry like that, it shattered me. I'll come, I whispered. But you have to promise me something. Anything, he said quickly. When I walk through that door, I said, you'll tell me everything. No more lies, Ethan, no more secrets. He hesitated, then nodded. I promise. The drive to the house felt endless. Every mile was heavy with memories, Christmas mornings, birthday parties, late-night laughter. It all felt like ghosts now. When I finally pulled into the driveway, I could barely recognize the home. The curtains were drawn, trash was piled by the door, and the front light flickered weakly, like the house itself was tired. I stepped inside quietly. Ethan was sitting on the couch, head in his hands. When he looked up, I barely recognized him. His face was pale, his eyes red and swollen. He looked lost. Mom, he whispered. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, staring at the boy I raised, the man who'd become a stranger, now broken before me. Then he started talking, everything, all at once. How Claire convinced him to take control of my finances. How she promised to invest the money and make us both rich. How she laughed when he said he felt guilty about taking my pension. And how, when the account started emptying faster than he expected, she told him it was too late to turn back. Then one morning, she disappeared, leaving nothing but a fake address and a single message on his phone. Thanks for the free ride. By the time he finished talking, his voice was shaking. I thought I was in control, Mom. I thought I was being smart. I just wanted to give you more one day, I swear. I didn't know it would come to this. I sank into the chair across from him. My heart ached. You hurt me, Ethan, I said softly. Not just with the money, but with your words. You made me feel like I was a burden. He wiped his eyes. I know, Mom. I was stupid. I thought I was proving something, that I wasn't a failure. But all I did was destroy the only person who ever believed in me. A long silence filled the room. Finally, I said, the police are investigating now. You need to cooperate. Tell them everything. It's the only way out of this. He nodded miserably. I already did. They said I might be charged for fraud, but they'll see Claire's the one who planned it. I just don't know what happens next. I took a deep breath and looked around the room. The place that once felt like home now felt hollow. But strangely, I didn't feel hate, just sorrow. Ethan, I said quietly, you'll have to face what you've done. But that doesn't mean I'll stop being your mother. His head shot up. You're not leaving me. Tears filled my eyes. I left once, Ethan. It almost killed me. I can't watch you fall apart alone, even if you broke my heart. He broke down completely then, sobbing into his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it right. I moved closer and held him. For the first time in months, I held my son. And though my heart still ached, there was a flicker of peace. Later that night, after he fell, asleep, I sat quietly by the window. The moonlight hit the table, the same table where he once did his homework, and later where he'd accused me of stealing. How strange that the same space could hold both love and pain. I picked up his empty coffee mug and whispered, You're my son, but love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you again. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Detective Bishop again. I'd tell her everything, the loans, the transfers, the offshore account. Ethan needed help, yes. But he also needed accountability. Maybe this was what forgiveness really meant, not pretending it didn't happen, but facing it together. The next morning, I woke to a knock at the door. It was Laura, and behind her stood 2 officers. "Betty," she said softly, "we have to take Ethan in for questioning today." My chest tightened. Ethan appeared behind me, pale and trembling. "Mom, what's happening?" I turned to him, tears in my eyes. "It's time to tell the truth, Ethan, all of it." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded weakly. "Okay, Mom, I'll tell them everything." As they let him out, he turned back to me. "I love you," he whispered. And for the first time in so long, I believed him. That night, as I sat alone in the quiet house, I thought about how love can hurt in ways you never expect. But maybe, just maybe, pain is how love grows stronger when you choose to forgive even when it breaks you. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The sun hadn't even fully risen yet. My heart skipped. It was Detective Bishop. I answered immediately. "Laura, is everything all right? Did Ethan—" "Betty," she said, cutting me off gently, "Ethan's fine. He's cooperating, but we have a problem." I sat up straight. "What kind of problem?" There was a pause. Then, in a tone that made my stomach turn, she said, "Claire's back in the country." For a moment, I couldn't process the words. "What? That's impossible." She took the money and ran. "I thought so too," Laura said grimly. "But we got a hit from border control. She flew back last night under an alias using one of the stolen IDs from your file." My blood ran cold. "She used my identity." "Yes, and that's not all," Laura continued. "She rented a car in your name this morning. She's nearby, Betty, somewhere in this city." I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying to stay calm. "Why would she come back?" "I don't know," Laura admitted. "Maybe she's trying to grab whatever's left of the money, or maybe she realized Ethan talked to the police. Either way, I need you to be careful, lock the doors, don't go anywhere alone." I nodded, my hands trembling. "Okay, thank you, Laura." When I hung up, I sat there in stunned silence. After everything, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the tears, now she was back. Why couldn't this nightmare just end? I spent the next few hours pacing the house, checking the locks twice, even closing the curtains. The once bright, warm home now felt like a cage of shadows. Every small sound, the creak of the floor, the hum of the refrigerator, made me jump. Finally, I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the rain start to fall outside. That's when I saw it. A silver sedan, parked across the street. Engine running. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. But then I saw the silhouette, a woman in the driver's seat, her face hidden by sunglasses and a hat. She didn't move. A chill ran through me. I reached for my phone and dialed Laura again. "Detective, I think she's here." "Where?" Laura asked immediately. "In front of my house, silver car, she's just sitting there." "Stay inside," Laura said firmly. "Don't open the door for anyone. I'm sending a patrol car right now." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. But then, as if she knew I was watching, the woman in the car turned her head slowly. For a split second, our eyes met through the window. Even from across the street, even through tinted glass, I recognized that cold smirk. Claire. And then, just like that, the car drove away. By the time the officers arrived, she was gone. They took my statement, reassured me they'd find her, and asked if I wanted to stay somewhere safe for the night. But I refused. I'd been running long enough. When they left, I sat on the couch and whispered to myself, I won't let her win again. Hours later, Ethan called me from the station. His voice was tired, hollow. "Mom, they let me go for now. I told them everything about Claire." I swallowed hard. "Ethan, she's back." There was silence on the other end. Then he whispered, "What?" "She's here. She used my name to come back into the country. The police are looking for her." I heard him breathing heavily. "I need to come home." "No, Ethan," I said quickly. "Stay there. Let the police handle this. If she knows you talked, she might." But he interrupted, desperate. "Mom, she'll come for you. She'll blame you for everything." I didn't have the heart to tell him I already thought the same thing. That night I barely slept. Every shadow looked like her. Every creak sounded like footsteps. At around 2 a.m., I heard a faint noise outside the gate. My heart pounded. I slowly peeked through the curtains. Nothing. Just the rain tapping on the pavement. I told myself I was imagining things again and turned away, but then there was a knock. Soft, deliberate, knock, knock, knock. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. I didn't move for what felt like an eternity. Then through the door, a voice, sweet, familiar, and chillingly calm, said, "Betty, it's Claire. We need to talk." Every muscle in my body went rigid. She knew my name. She knew I was home. "Go away," I shouted, my voice trembling. "The police are looking for you." She laughed, a quiet, eerie sound. Oh, I know, that's why I came. You and I both know your son isn't innocent, and if I go down, he goes down with me. My heart nearly stopped. Open the door, Betty, she said softly. Let's talk like two mothers, I grabbed my phone and dialed Laura again, whispering, She's here, she's at my door. Stay calm, Laura said. We're on our way. I set the phone down and backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on the door. Claire knocked again, harder this time. You really think the police care about you, Betty? About your poor, stupid son? They'll lock him up for good, but I can fix this. I can make it all go away. I felt tears welling up, but I forced my voice to stay steady. You've done enough, Claire. Leave us alone. There was silence. Then footsteps fading away. A car engine. Gone. When Laura and the officers arrived 10 minutes later, they found tire tracks in the mud near the gate. She's trying to scare you, Laura said. But she made a mistake. Coming to you means she's desperate. I nodded, but my hands were still shaking. What if she comes back? She won't get far, Laura promised. We'll catch her soon. That night after they left, I sat by the window again, the same spot I'd cried in so many nights before. But this time, something inside me changed. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I wasn't just a victim. I was a survivor, and I was done being afraid. I took a deep breath and whispered to the quiet house, You picked the wrong family, Claire. I don't think I'll ever forget that night. The house was too quiet. No TV, no phone notifications, just the low hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my heart in my ears. Ethan hadn't come home the night before. Part of me wanted to call the police. The other part, the mother part, couldn't bear the idea of hearing something I couldn't handle. Around 11:40 p.m., I heard his car pull into the driveway. Relief hit me first, then anger. I opened the door before he even reached it. He looked wrecked. His hair was a mess, eyes bloodshot, clothes wrinkled, and in his hands a crumpled piece of paper. Where were you? I asked, my voice trembling despite how much I tried to sound steady. He didn't answer right away. He walked past me and dropped the paper on the counter. I picked it up. It was an eviction notice. I've been staying at Olivia's place, he said quietly, but her parents found out what I did and they kicked me out. My breath hitched. What you did? He rubbed his face, breaking down. I borrowed money from her dad, Mom. I told him I'd pay it back once I took over your paycheck. The words hit like a physical slap. You used my name to borrow money. I thought I could make it work, he said, his voice cracking. I thought if I could prove I could handle money, you'd finally see I wasn't useless. But I messed up. I messed up so bad. He sank onto the floor, his back against the cabinet. He started crying, really crying, the kind that shakes the body. I stood there, frozen. For months, I dreamed of hearing him apologize, of seeing him regret what he'd done. But seeing it didn't feel like victory. It just hurt. I kneeled down beside him. Ethan, why didn't you just talk to me? He shook his head. Because you've always been the strong one. I didn't want you to see how weak I was. I thought if I could control something, even your money, I'd finally feel like a man. That broke me. The anger melted away, replaced by something heavier, sorrow. I never wanted to control you, I whispered. I just wanted to help you, but you can't take what isn't yours and call it love. He nodded, crying harder. I know, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I wrapped my arms around him. For the first time in years, he didn't pull away. We sat like that, two broken people in a small kitchen at midnight, surrounded by unpaid bills and silent regrets. After a long time, I whispered, We'll fix this together, but only if you mean it. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes. I mean it. The next day, we started small. I took him with me to the bank to close the old joint account. He handed over his card without resistance this time. Then we visited a counseling center, not just for him, but for us both. It wasn't easy. Every session forced us to face things neither of us wanted to admit. There were days he didn't show up, days I cried in the car before even walking in. But there were also days, small, quiet days, when we laughed again. One afternoon, about 2 months later, he brought me coffee at work. Just a simple cup with a sticky note that said, Thanks for not giving up on me. That note stayed on my fridge for months. It reminded me that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's survival. But just when I thought things were finally healing, something unexpected happened. A letter came in the mail, from a law firm addressed to me. It said I was being investigated for financial fraud linked to the same loan Ethan had taken. I stared at the letter, my hands shaking. My son's mistake, his one desperate act, was coming back for me. He walked in as I was reading it, froze when he saw the envelope. His face drained of color. Mom, he whispered, realizing instantly what it was. What did you sign, Ethan? I asked, my voice almost breaking. He didn't answer. His silence said it all. And in that moment, I realized the road to forgiveness wasn't over yet. The letter sat on the table like a bomb waiting to go off. I stared at the lawyer's logo, the official stamps, the words under investigation. All I could think was, after everything, after the tears, the counseling, the small pieces of peace we had started rebuilding, it was all falling apart again. Ethan stood frozen near the doorway, his face pale. "Mom, please, I didn't mean for it to get this far." I looked up at him, my son, my only child, and for the first time I wasn't sure if I was looking at the boy I raised or the man his choices had made him. "What did you sign?" I whispered. He swallowed hard, his eyes darting toward the floor. "When I took the loan, they needed a guarantor. I forged your signature." The air left my body. I felt cold. Not angry this time, just empty. "You forged my name," he nodded, tears spilling again. "I thought I could fix it before you ever found out. I was stupid. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll fix this, I promise." I wanted to scream, to throw the letter, to break something, but instead I just sat down. Slowly, my knees felt weak. "Do you understand what this means, Ethan? This isn't just money, this is fraud. They could press charges." He covered his face. "Then let them. I'll tell them everything. I won't let them hurt you." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual, every second echoing in my ears like a reminder of how far we'd fallen. Finally, I said quietly, "You're going to call the lawyer tomorrow. You're going to confess. And you're going to fix what you broke, not for me, but for yourself." He nodded, voice breaking. "I will." The next morning, we went to the law office together. I held the papers while he told the truth. Lawyer listened, arms folded, eyes sharp but not cruel. After Ethan finished explaining, there was silence. Then the lawyer sighed. "You're lucky, son. Your mother's reputation is solid and the lender hasn't filed charges yet, but you'll need to repay everything. And this will stay on record for a long time." Ethan nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." We left the office, both drained. He didn't say much during the car ride, neither did I, but at a red light, he whispered, "Thank you for coming with me." I turned to look at him. His face was older somehow, not by years, but by consequence. "I came because you're my son," I said softly. "But love doesn't mean ignoring what's right." He nodded, tears glistening again. "I know, I'm sorry, Mom, I really am." Weeks passed. Ethan got 2 jobs, one at a local warehouse during the day and another delivering food at night. He barely slept. He didn't complain. Every few days, he handed me envelopes of cash. "For the repayment," he'd say quietly. And every time, I'd feel something shift in me, a mixture of sorrow and pride. Because finally, he wasn't just saying sorry. He was living it. One night, months later, I came home to find dinner already made: spaghetti, his favorite from when he was little. There was also a small note on the table. "Mom, I finished the last payment today. I'll never be able to repay the pain I caused, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. I love you." My hands shook as I read it. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear dropped onto the note. He walked out of the kitchen just then, smiling shyly. "So, spaghetti okay?" I couldn't speak. I just hugged him hard. "I love you too," I whispered. "And I forgive you." The next few months brought peace, real peace. We laughed again. We shared morning coffee like we used to. I saw him grow into a man who understood responsibility not through control, but through love and humility. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, he turned to me and said, "Mom, I want you to know something. That night when I told you your paycheck belonged to me, I was angry, selfish, and lost. But that moment, seeing how much it broke you, it changed everything. It's what made me realize what kind of man I never want to be again." I smiled through tears. "Then maybe," I said softly, "something good did come out of all that pain." He nodded, eyes glistening. "You never gave up on me. That's what saved me." I looked at the horizon, my heart both heavy and light. "That's what mothers do, Ethan. We break, we bleed, but we never stop loving." Final reflection: life doesn't always give you perfect endings. Sometimes it gives you scars that remind you of where love and forgiveness truly begin. If you've ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply, you know that it's not weakness. It's the strongest thing a heart can do. Speech balloon, what would you do if your own child betrayed you like this? Would you forgive or walk away? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And wherever you're watching from, remember, love is never easy, but it's always worth it.